Hello again, Ian Stokey with Mastermind Games, back with Malifaux and Hamelin the Plagued. So before I talk about him, I'm going to talk about the physical construction of the model, as physically this is the worst balanced model I have ever owned. This portion weighs a lot more than the rest of it, and it kept tipping over. To solve it, I took these lead fishing weights, and using this big lunker of a tool, big heavy-duty pliers with a cutting edge here, I cut them in half, smashed them flat, and then glued about as many as I could cram onto the bottom of the base with cyanoacrylate super glue, and that pretty much solved the problem completely. So, decent advice for stubborn models. Tanned Skin 09044. So in the original book for Malifaux, the very first, Hamelin was a minion and not a master, with his mounted on a 40 or 50 millimeter base with his dog Nyx, the only creature he loved and treated well. But he was a bottom feeder, basically scrabbling around Malifaux, murdering anyone he had the opportunity to for whatever they happened to have on him at the time. Nominally a rat catcher, by the way, and during one particularly bad storm, he got swept into the labyrinthine sewers of Malifaux, where he happened upon the crypt where the tyrant entity Plague had been imprisoned. So the tyrants were all powerful wizards and alchemists that once ruled Malifaux, and their reign was so terrible that the original inhabitants literally brought down the apocalypse upon themselves to get rid of them, summoning the Grave Spirit, essentially the embodiment of death. And while the Grave Spirit was able to destroy well, to be fair, it's not exactly revealed what the Grave Spirit did, but it destroyed the tyrants' bodies, but not their souls. Let's see, next up, we'll go ahead and do this now. Cloudy Gray 09089. So the tyrants are becoming very, very active again, but they need to bond to a living host, and while several other masters are the hosts of or were the hosts of tyrants, Hamelin lost his struggle with Plague almost immediately. Plague devoured his body with a swarm of various vermin, and then took over Hamelin's what was left of his body, devoured his soul more or less, and his physical body is actually composed of countless insects and other small creatures, essentially forced into his former form by the will of Plague. And the Plague sees the tyrant's struggles as a great game where the reward is godhood, essentially, and the penalty for losing is annihilation. And while he was originally jovial about how entertaining the game amongst the tyrants was going to be, when Titania, the original apparent ruler of Malifaux that the tyrants themselves rebelled against before coming to power, well, Plague got really terrified, as did some of the other, well, at least one other tyrant anyway. Okay. And one mannerism of Hamelin's that Plague retained after taking him over is the pipes, and he is based off the Pied Piper of Hamelin, obviously. And I'm going to let that dry and come back in a minute. Alright, next, see to find the right one. Templar Blue 09056. So one thing about the fishing weights, since they are lead, make sure you keep your hands clean while you're working with it. It shouldn't be much of a problem after assembly, but just be aware. Okay. But regardless, the gist of the story of the Pied Piper of Hamelin, and there are many variants to it, is the town of Hamelin is plagued by rats they can't get rid of, so this piper comes, promising to get rid of them, which he does using a jaunty tune on a magic flute. And after getting rid of the rats, the townsfolk refuse to pay him, so he uses his magic flute to get rid of their children the same way he gets rid of the rats, and several of the models associated with him reflect that. So, Malifaux was rife with characters based on literature especially, but other aspects of fiction as well. Let's see, and I need to wait just a bit longer, but maybe I can start in his staff. So at least in 2nd edition, this was called the Black Staff. So we'll go with that. Dark Elf Skin 09164. But yeah, technically the big cloud of magical vermin is an optional part. But without it, he just looks like some dude holding a stick. So I was going to drop him for a second there, which I do not want to do. This again is a custom sculpted basing. I just went with stonework from slums, but not necessarily as uneven as I normally do, just essentially using a sculpting tool to put a simple grid into some putty while it was still wet. Nothing too hard there at all. Yes, that's flaking around a bit. It should be okay though. I might do some stuff to this with the highlights and shading, but Shield Brown 09162, or no, 09161 is Shield Brown. I grabbed the wrong one by mistake. This is just going to go on his hair. Though, right now like this, he looks a bit like James Dean, an actor from the 50s who's been on my mind because I saw a video earlier today about his supposedly haunted car that he died in. So, it's an interesting story. So, there we go. Let's see. A little more right here. And I'm going to need to let that dry for a bit before moving on. Okay, next up, Oiled Leather 09110. Starting with the boots. And so Plague may be one of the more impatient Titans because he kind of try to turn my speaker down. Test. Okay. My speaker does some weird feedback sometimes if I have it turned up too loud, so at least that's one thing I've caught that I can fix with these videos. But he essentially tried to Alpha Strike and go to his endgame soon after waking up, which was in the 2nd book from Malifaux. I can't remember the title right this second. But his ambition was stopped by Kiraya and Koku of the Resurrectionists faction. And during that fight he got smashed to pieces, but managed to survive. Well, to be fair, it's hard to kill something like this, but he survived, and I think this might be flesh here, but I finish getting the jacket first and then figure out what I need to do, if anything. Oh, they're suspenders. It's suspenders, okay. Got it. Since his body is composed of minute insects and vermin, he did pull himself together eventually, but it did take him a bit. The tyrants woke up. They did not wake up at full strength. And fortunately for them and everyone else currently in Malifaux, neither has Titania. But the most relevant aspect of all this is beings of godlike power stalk in the world. I'm starting to ramble a bit, but other tyrants and their connected hosts are Oblivion with Terra, or Tara I think is actually the pronunciation, Rasputina in December. Sharuf was bound to Sonia Creed, but I think he's currently bound to the former Governor General of Malifaux, who is now the Burning Man, stuck in agony between Earth and Malifaux. Let's see who else. The Gorgon, I think is her name, is bound to both Samus and Molly. And I'm trying to think a second here. I can't think of any others off the top of my head right this second. Oh, almost forgot his belt. But I think there's at least one more master tied to a specific... Oh, Shenlong. He's tied to the dragon. I can't remember the name of it right now, but that was it. Those are the masters tied to tyrants as far as I am aware at this time. So now I need to switch my grip, take Pure White 09039 and start the cloud here. This is going to be done as a lighting effect, and I'm going to try to make it as disgusting looking as possible, given that it's supposed to be a cloud of pestilent. Well, essentially a cloud of pure pestilence, more or less. But if this leaks onto the base a bit, that's okay. Okay, I'm going to switch to a larger brush now that I've got the bulk of it around Hamelin's immediate vicinity. This was multiple pieces, and while not the most difficult thing I've ever assembled was up there. I'm trying to avoid touching the fishing weights on the other side, but I'm not going to have much choice. So just working with anything potentially dangerous, just take safety precautions and be aware of hygiene. But this thing is partially hollow on the inside, largely just a bunch of solid pieces. I'm starting to ramble, just getting a little tired. The concept art off his box set, The Plague Cometh, which, again, that's the second edition name of the box. This was all translucent green. I'm going to try to yuck it up. Not in the funny way, but in the disgusting way. I'll be playing around with Hamelin's shading, and mostly the shading, to try to reflect that he is more or less disease personified. I need a little more of that paint, which is almost out, but I have a replacement. Gonna be slowly switching brands. The store I've been getting this at doesn't carry it anymore. After looking at online ordering, that's not really going to work out too well for me. Might be the last hurrah for this color. So we'll just see if I can make it last long enough to get to the end of this video. I'm going to make certain I get a pretty solid coverage all around. But there are numerous animalistic, humanoid, and demonic faces in this little cloud of unspeakable agony here. I'm just hoping Hamel doesn't snap off his base while I'm doing this. He's fairly solidly connected, but with that said, there are only 2 connection points, and those are the bottoms of his feet, which are fairly normal sized. Okay, got it well enough. I'm going to do a little touch up on the back of his boot here. There's one more base coat to get. Just be real careful. And that's going to be, if I can find it, Tarnished Steel 09206. We'll give him silver pipes. Just quick, and this was a separate piece, but it was easy to glue in. There we go. Let that dry, and I can start shading. Okay. Blackened Steel 09205. And this is the shading step, so I'll be fitting this out to a wash with 1 part paint to 1 part water. And I forgot to do the belt buckle, so that'll get it started at least well enough. Then Dark Elf Shadow 09163. This will flow right down. Okay, keep nicking the fingers on that one of these arms here, so I need to be careful. Okay, and let's see. I'll try to get the, you know what, I better err on the side of patience here, so we'll just let that dry before I move on. Ruddy Leather 09109. jacket here. Let's make sure I'm in the camera here. Need to get. Can't believe I'm still not used to that at this point, but. Okay. Okay. Breonne Blue 09055. Okay. Stormy Gray 09088. Okay. Well, actually, almost forgot to get the base with this, but just about done. It's just 2 layers of shading, and that's going to go on both his flesh and hair, as well as his magic cloud of agony here. Though it looks impressive, even with just the white on. Alright. Next up, we're going to try an experiment here. Sun Yellow 09008. I'm going to try to make both Hamelin and his little cloud of magic look absolutely disgusting. So what we've done is a sort of semi-lighting effect. I'm going to be doing 2 layers of shading on this. See if I can make it look particularly disgusting. So this might work. Because Hamelin, like I said, is not really human anymore. And I'm just going to straight up switch to a larger brush for the shading on the cloud here. And it's fun, it's getting into the crevice there of the tile. Because 1, I can redo it later, and 2, it's fine if it looks like it's seeping in. It's get a little tricky as to how far this extends past and around the base, but I think I got it. now it's oozing off, and that's acceptable. Not ideal per se, but I can work with that. Okay, that's a start. Let it dry, do the next layer, and see if I luck out. Okay, pale green 09012. Plenty of water to thin it out. I wonder if I should have done this before the yellow, but switching to a larger brush for the magic like last time. I'm going for the most disgusting, phlegmy color I can think of. More or less inspired by the grossest stuff you can cough up when you're ill. Making certain to get solid coverage on this one. Alright. It's the last of the shading. Set it back in a minute once it's all dried up. Alright. Wrapping up with some dry brushing. Starting with the lowest area, tanned highlight 09045. So, using a completely dry brush, no paint, no water, just straight paint. Rub the excess off on a paper towel till it looks like there's nothing left. Then, make sure I'm not dropping thousands of frames a second. And lightly dust the area to be affected. Going against any curves and contours to catch the paint better. Oh, I forgot to do his eyes real quick. It's my mistake. Just going to use Pure Black 09037. And I am just giving him just dead black eyes. That's not going to work. guess I'm going to have to make do with it. And sometimes I'm just going to be stuck using a poor choice. Yeah, that is not going to work. It is just too frayed. Here it is. Here's my good one. Just dead black eyes. Now, finish up the face. And let's see. Driftwood brown. Yeah, 0.162. For the hair. Switching brushes freely here. But you want a ragged, feathered looking one. Ashen blue. And find it 09057. Going again for the most readily visible surfaces. Misty gray 09090. Might be a bit big, but short. Too much paint there. And the street. Not worried about the overflow from the magic. I want to kind of make it look like it's polluting the street, so corrupting the very ground he stands on. Burnt orange 09111. Not that one. This one. Again, putting most of my focus on the most readily visible areas. That's about perfect. Dark Elf highlight 09165. True Silver 09207. Get a smaller one for this. Put on the belt buckle and his pipes. Then then, I normally don't bother highlighting lighting effects, but I'm going to make an exception in this case, and lemon yellow 09009. Just going to do a real quick light dusting, mostly on the front of the cloud here, with one of the biggest brushes I have. Let's get a quick blanket coverage here. Trying to make sure there isn't any black showing through. Okay, that's not bad at all. And then wrapping up with pure black again, 09037. Switching to a flat head brush. Carefully going around the edge of the base, avoiding hitting anything, especially lighting effects. Just getting a nice solid coat to define, again, the edge of the base, and cover up the errant paint that got onto it during the process here. And there we go. Hamelin the Plagued, ready to unleash unholy terror on the denizens of Malifaux. Continuing this trend with more models from his box set. Until next time, I am Ian Stuckey with Mastermind Games, signing out.